The interview that changed everything. Karoline Leavitt didn't walk into that studio looking for a fight, but she knew one was coming. She had been in high-pressure interviews before, sitting across from journalists who poked and prodded, waiting for her to slip. But this time was different. This wasn't just another debate. This was a moment that would change the media forever, and she didn't even know it yet. Across from her sat Paul Danning, a television titan, a veteran journalist who had built his career not on asking questions, but on winning arguments. He wasn't here to listen. He was here to dismantle. And today, his target was her. The cameras rolled. The stage lights burned. Millions of people were watching live, but neither of them knew just how many more would see what was about to happen. Paul started smoothly. Too smoothly. His tone was measured, his words calculated. "The real issue, Karoline," he said, leaning forward, "is that conservative voices claim they're being silenced, yet here you are on national television. Doesn't that prove your entire argument false?" Karoline didn't blink. She had expected this. "With respect, Paul, being invited on your show for 15 minutes doesn't erase the fact that conservative viewpoints are consistently buried, flagged, demonetized, or outright removed online. The data is there. Should I list the examples?" Paul's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. He wasn't used to guests coming prepared. "Or," he countered, "maybe what's really happening is that misinformation gets flagged, and certain voices just happen to spread it more than others." And there it was. The bait. Karoline didn't take it. Instead, she leaned back, hands folded in her lap. "You mean like when your own network falsely reported that a certain protest was mostly peaceful, while buildings burned in the background?" Paul's jaw tightened. For the first time he hesitated, just for a second. But a second was all it took. The air shifted. The studio crew, normally still and detached, exchanged glances. Producers in the control room straightened in their seats. Something was happening. Paul felt it too. That's why he snapped. His voice sharpened. His body leaned in. The smoothness was gone. "People like you," he spat, "are the reason this country is backsliding." Silence. Not the kind that comes from a lull in conversation. Not the kind that happens when someone is searching for words. This was the kind of silence that signals something irreversible has just occurred. Karoline's face remained calm, but her eyes darkened. She let the moment stretch. Let the weight of those two words settle. Then softly she asked, "Excuse me?" Paul didn't stop. He couldn't stop. "You push this fake narrative of victimhood," he pressed, voice rising, "pretending conservatives are being silenced when, in reality, you're the ones silencing everyone else." Karoline exhaled slowly, choosing her next words carefully. "Would you like to clarify what you meant by your people?" It was a simple question, but it was a grenade with the pin already pulled. Paul knew it. His mouth opened, then shut. He had spent decades controlling interviews, steering conversations where he wanted them to go. But now, he had lost control. A second passed, then another. Finally, he exhaled sharply. "I meant conservatives." His voice was too quick, too defensive. "People like you who thrive on grievance instead of progress?" Karoline tilted her head. "So, just to be clear, when you said your people, you were referring only to political ideology?" His lips pressed into a thin line. He was trapped. If he pushed back, he risked confirming the very thing millions were already thinking. If he admitted it was a poor choice of words, he looked weak. So he did what many do when backed into a corner. He lashed out. "Oh, come on, Karoline. Don't play the victim." He let out a dry, humorless chuckle. "This is exactly what I mean. You take a simple phrase, twist it, and make it about you instead of engaging with the real argument." Karoline didn't flinch. "I don't need to twist anything, Paul. Your words speak for themselves." For the briefest moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Panic? But then, he made the fatal mistake. "You know what?" He scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. Maybe if conservatives spent less time playing the victim and more time actually contributing something to society, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And just like that, it was over. The moment the words left his mouth, Paul knew. The producers knew. The control room knew. And soon, the world would know. Karoline didn't react. She didn't need to. The internet would do it for her. Within minutes, the clip was online. A 15-second snippet. Maybe if conservatives spent less time playing the victim and more time actually contributing something to society. Spread like wildfire. No context, no prelude. Just those words, looped over and over. By midday, number fire Paul Danning was trending. Advertisers panicked. 3 major sponsors pulled their deals within hours. By nightfall, 5 more followed. NBS News was in full-blown crisis mode. At 3 p.m. the next day, the network issued a statement. Paul Danning has been placed on indefinite suspension while we conduct an internal review. It wasn't enough. The outrage kept building. Viewers flooded the network's inbox with demands for his termination. By morning, NBS News caved. At 9:15 a.m. they announced, effective immediately, Paul Danning is no longer affiliated with NBS News. We thank him for his years of service and wish him the best in his future endeavors. And just like that, he was gone. Some called it justice. Others called it cancel culture at its worst. Conservative media pounced, branding Karoline as the woman who had ended Paul Danning's career. Meanwhile, left-leaning networks distanced themselves from Paul, but not without discomfort. If a veteran journalist could be erased overnight, who was next? And then, Paul broke his silence. A pre-recorded video. His face tired, his voice calm but defiant. I was fired because I spoke the truth. The media doesn't want truth. They want compliance. If you step out of line, they erase you. This isn't about me. It's about all of us. The video went viral. His supporters rallied. His critics pushed back. And Karoline? She stayed quiet. She didn't gloat. She didn't engage. She let the world argue for her. But this wasn't just about Paul anymore. This was about something bigger. Was this justice or censorship? A reckoning or a warning? One thing was clear. This wouldn't be the last time a moment like this happened. And when it did, the question remained, whose side would you be on?